Welcome to the Hidden Corners, where truth and terror collide. Discover a realm where the lines between the living and the supernatural blur, as you embark on a journey to the paranormal and visit the mysterious hidden corners of your mind. Welcome to Sci Fi Saturday. Today we are reading the story, The Depth of the Lens by N.R. McFarland.
The Depth of the Lens. The affair started when I was given a small specimen by a friend of mine, a student of geology, who had found it while searching for odd stones in a pile of river gravel. The small, globular, crystal-like rock had caught his eye, and he brought it to me, who, besides being a chemist of some note, have also delved rather deeply into geologic researches. At first glance, the stone resembled nothing so much as a cheap glass marble, but on closer inspection, one found that it actually glowed with a pale green light. And, while its outer shape was perfectly spherical, if one contemplated it for very long, one saw things rather monstrous to one brought up on as much orthodox Euclidean geometry as I was. Tetrahedrons and other polyhedrons mingled with decagons and other polygons. One figure seemed always to merge into another and disappear, giving way to others, which were dissipated in the same way. The sides of the plane figures and the edge of the solid ones were not straight, but curving lines that wavered like lines of smoke, and then changed position. If I concentrate deeply on some other subject, however, this fancy can be thrown off, and the globe will seem almost normal again. I am perfectly sure, knowing what I do with this stone, that it was never created on this earth. It may have been brought from far reaches of interstellar space by a meteor. Or, ridiculous thought, and one who has always pooh-poohed at such imaginative ideas, it may have been left in the riverbed by an expedition from a far world. Be that as it may, I now use this globe as a lens for a new form of microscope I have invented, which stands before me as I write. Impelled by idle curiosity, I one day inserted it in the tube and was surprised by the result. Perhaps because of the unusual geometrical figures within, or for some other equally peculiar reason. This lens not only magnifies greatly, but gives an examiner the effect of being on the glass side, instead of above it. When I observe crystals of any sort through this lens, I seem to be beside towering and geometrical correct buildings, in orthorhomby, monoclinic, or any other of the myriad forms of crystals. A powdered chemical seen through, it gives one of the effects of being surrounded by immense boulders of rocks. During the course of some of these experiments, I tried a simple chemical trick, every part of the experiment being carried on under the lens. Through a medicine dropper, I dropped the solution I had made up onto the slide, looking through the eyepiece at the same time. I felt that I had been transported to another world with that one look. The ground under my feet was not earth, but a transparent composition which was hard and brilliant. I seemed to be directly in front of an immense yellow wave which was bearing straight down on me. It swept on and engulfed me, forcing me to struggle for my life in the oily waves. Soon I noticed, to my surprise, that the level of the liquid was going down rapidly, and a thick yellow scum was swirling and twisting in places on the surface. Here was a new danger, I thought. If I were not careful, I should be drawn into one of those whirlpools of scum. But even while I was trying to evade them, they ceased to be scum, and even as I watched, became vast transparent yellow edifices which grew larger each second, extending in all directions. I gasped in horror at the corner of a building grew straight towards me. If I did not move, this thing would crush me under millions of tons of transparent yellow stone, but I could not move a muscle, and like a coward closed my eyes to wait supinely for the end. I can't describe the agonies I endured during the moment I waited with my eyes closed. When I opened them slowly and looked up, I saw the familiar ceiling of my laboratory. With a laugh, I came to myself. What a fool I was, to be taken in like that through a mere microscope. Then I again bent my eye to the tube and felt again that sensation of fear. The building still towered behind me, but with what a relief I realized that they had stopped growing. I closed my eyes again and removed my eye from the tube. I recognized the buildings for what they were and laughed again. Since then, I have again and again done the same experiment. I feel the greatest horror during the time I have the sensation of being on the slide, but by closing my eyes I am able to escape from it and become myself again. Sometimes I seem barely to escape from the building in time and have a terrible effect to close my eyes. Since that is the only way to escape, I have found out, I feel that if I am ever unable to close them, I shall be crushed. I sometimes think that perhaps the globe brought an evil genie with it from whatever dark, far-flung star it came from, and that he is trying to imprison me until I am crushed on that glass slide. But that way lies madness. It is impossible, utterly. And yet when I think of those moments of superb horror down there, I wonder. Tonight I am tortured by doubts. I know my conjectures to be impossible, but nevertheless I shall try it to make sure. I shall descend to the bottom again and test out my thoughts. Then when the moment comes that the buildings grow toward me, I will not close my eyes, but I will keep them open, and show myself how absurd my fancies are. I have a peculiar feeling, which reason also tells me is ridiculous, that I am not coming back from this trip to the slide. When I look through the microscope, it seems that I am really made smaller, and that I am projected down on the slide, though whether it is the slide or the lens I am sometimes unable to tell. I have the sensation of being on the slide, but at the same time I seem to be in the globe. Perhaps my body goes to the slide, made thousands of times smaller of course, and my soul, in the form of a pink butterfly, or something of that sort, to the lens. Well, aside with idle fancies and prepared for the test. I leave this notebook here on the laboratory table in the event that I am unable to come back from the depth of the lens. No one will believe this account, and there will be no way to prove it. If I should be crushed, my body would be so small that it could never be seen under the great bulk of a crystal or building. Well, I have the solution all mixed in and in the dropper. Here goes. Clipping from the Neuville Bonner, August 10th, 1929. University officials and townspeople both are wondering about the mysterious disappearance of Dr. Robert Jameson, assistant professor of chemistry at the university here. The brilliant young doctor was last seen at 10 o'clock last night when the janitor of the building closed up for the evening. Dr. Jameson was engaged in research work at that time and told the janitor that he would let himself out. Since then, nothing has been seen of him. A possible explanation is suggested by a notebook left on his desk, but when examined they proved to contain nothing but rather wild ramblings. One of the psychologists at the university, after examining the notebook, said that the disappearance furnished a remarkable example of the influence of fear, but further than that he would say nothing. Another curious article on the table was a new form of microscope, believed to have been invented by Dr. Jameson, which had a peculiar globular lens, which seemed to glow with a pale green light. No explanation could be given of this, nor of the glass slide in the microscope. It was covered with orthorhombic crystals of sulfur, of the type formed in an elementary chemical experiment, when sulfur is dissolved in carbon disulfide and allowed to crystallize out, and which it does with great rapidity. Police all over the state are on the lookout for Dr. Jameson, for whose disappearance university officials could give no motive. He was not known to have any love affairs, and his work was proceeding very satisfactorily. Laboratory assistants, however, said that he had grown increasingly moody during the last few days ever since he was given an unusual geologic specimen, which has been mentioned as a lens of the microscope.